The great hall of the Galactic Council was filled with light and whispers. Hundreds of alien delegates sat in a circle, their eyes glowing, their tendrils twitching, their scaled hands tapping on stone tables. At the center of the hall stood the humans, alone, surrounded and judged by all. The council leader, a tall being with silver skin and burning red eyes, raised his voice. "Humans," he declared, "you stand accused of violence, of greed, of endless ambition. You spread like fire and you burn everything in your path. For the safety of the galaxy, you are to be banished." Gasps echoed through the chamber, though many aliens nodded in agreement. To them, the decision was just. Humanity had fought wars, claimed new worlds, and refused to bow to the Council's rules. To the Council, humans were too dangerous to be trusted. The human ambassador, a woman named Helena Ward, stepped forward. Her uniform was torn, her eyes tired but sharp. She spoke with calm fury. "You call us dangerous, but who here has not fought wars? Who here has not expanded, conquered, and taken what they desired? You fear us not because of what we have done, but because of what we can do." The chamber grew restless. The alien delegates hissed, muttered, and shouted. One delegate slammed his claw against the table. "Humans are reckless. They never stop. If they are allowed to remain, no species will be safe." Helena looked around the hall. She saw only fear in their eyes. No pity, no mercy, only fear. The council leader's voice silenced the hall again. "The decision is final. Humanity will be removed from council space. Your fleets, your colonies, your people, banished to the dark. If you survive, it will be away from us. If you die, it will be by your own nature." A signal rang out. Alien guards, tall and armored, surrounded the humans. They were escorted out of the council chambers like criminals, even though no war had been declared. Humanity had been judged guilty, not for a crime, but for being what they were. Soon after, the fleets arrived. Enormous alien battleships gathered above human colonies. They did not fire. Instead, they herded. Entire populations were forced onto massive ships, their worlds stripped of life. Earth itself was not destroyed, but it was left empty, guarded so humans could never return. Human fleets were pushed, system by system, deeper into the dark rim of the galaxy. Finally, the aliens released them near a dying star system, its planets barren, its resources nearly gone, its light fading. The alien commander who led the exile stood tall on his ship's bridge, watching the humans scatter into the broken system. His voice was cold as he transmitted his last words. "You wished for freedom. Now you have it. Survive here if you can. The galaxy will remember you only as a warning." And then the fleets left. Silence fell across the system. The human ships, damaged and tired, drifted like ghosts. Supplies were low. Engines failed. Many ships had no food, no medicine, no working power. On one vessel, children cried while their parents tried to comfort them with empty promises. On another, soldiers stared out at the dead planets, wondering how long before they starved. Humanity had been thrown away, but in that silence, something else stirred. It was not despair, it was defiance. On the flagship Resolute, Admiral Marcus Kane stood before his crew. His face was scarred, his voice hard as steel. "They thought they were casting us into the grave," he said. "They thought we would die quietly, forgotten in the dark. But we are still here. We are still breathing. And as long as we breathe, we fight." The crew rose to their feet, weak but determined. The same fire spread across the fleet. Engineers began repairing broken engines. Farmers began building greenhouses out of scrap. Soldiers swore to protect their people to the last breath. Humanity refused to vanish. In the council chambers far away, aliens celebrated their decision. They believed they had ended the human problem forever. No one there thought about the barren system, the broken ships, or the angry voices rising in the dark. No one thought about what humans might build when pushed to the edge, but the galaxy would learn, because humanity was not finished. They had been banished to die. But instead of death, they would find strength. Instead of silence, they would create thunder. And one day the galaxy would see what it meant to cast humanity into the shadows. This was not the end of mankind, it was the beginning of something greater. The beginning of an empire. The banished fleet drifted in silence. For many days, humans floated among the stars of the dead system. Their fuel was nearly gone, their supplies thin. The planets around them were cracked and lifeless. No rivers, no forests, only rock and dust. It seemed as if the galaxy had chosen a grave for them. On the refugee ships, life was hard. Families were crammed into cold metal halls. Children cried from hunger. The sick grew weaker each day. Generators flickered, food printers failed, and oxygen supplies ran dangerously low. Many whispered that perhaps the aliens were right. Perhaps this was the end of humanity. But even in despair, the human spirit did not break. On the flagship Resolute, Admiral Marcus Kane stood before his people. His voice was rough but filled with fire. "We have been cast aside," he said, "but we will not vanish. We will fight for every breath, every scrap, every inch of survival. The galaxy thinks we are finished. Let us prove them wrong." The words spread like sparks. Engineers began working without rest, pulling apart damaged ships to build machines that could recycle air and water. Farmers with no soil began growing food in nutrient tanks, experimenting with algae, fungus, and anything that could keep people alive. Soldiers, once trained for war, now became miners and builders. Still, the struggle was brutal. Many died in the first year. Entire families were lost to disease or hunger. The harsh environment of the dead planets offered little hope. Storms of dust tore across barren surfaces. Radiation leaked from the dying star. Supplies dwindled faster than they could be replaced. Every day was a battle against despair, yet slowly humanity adapted. A small group of scientists discovered mineral-rich caves beneath one of the dead planets. Though the surface was poison, deep underground there were veins of metal and water ice. Miners risked their lives to dig. And with those resources, the first new machines were built. Children who once cried now learned to work alongside their parents. They carried tools, planted algae, and studied in makeshift schools. "We may have lost our worlds," one teacher said, "but we have not lost our minds. Knowledge is our greatest weapon." The fleet grew stronger each passing year. Ships that once drifted without power were reforged into factories. Broken weapons were melted down into tools. What little they had, they transformed into more. Admiral Kane watched it all with pride, though he never showed weakness. In private, he carried the weight of every death. He stood many nights alone, staring at the stars. "We should have been destroyed," he whispered once. "But instead we endure. Why? Because we are human, and humans do not surrender." By the 10th year of exile, the humans were no longer just survivors. They had become builders. Underground cities spread across the dead worlds, shielded from radiation and storms. Vast tunnels became homes, glowing with artificial light. Hydroponic farms fed thousands. Power plants built from scrap reactors brought energy back to the fleet. But with survival came ambition. Whispers spread among the people, "Why should we only survive? Why not rise?" In one of the hidden cities, a young woman named Ilara stood before a crowd. She was not a soldier, not a leader, just a survivor like the rest. Yet her words carried fire. "The Council thought they buried us, but we are still here. We cannot return to the galaxy as beggars. We must return as something stronger. They wanted us dead. Instead, we will become their greatest fear." Her speech lit a spark. People cheered, voices echoing through stone walls. The dream of survival transformed into the dream of power. Admiral Kane heard of her words, and instead of silencing her, he agreed. "She is right," he told his officers. "We will not simply live. We will rise. We will build something they cannot destroy. They gave us exile. Let us turn it into empire." From that day, humanity's struggle gained a new purpose. Every worker, every scientist, every soldier knew their goal was not only to stay alive, but to grow stronger. The dead system was no longer a prison. It became a forge, and in the heart of the darkness, something extraordinary was being born. Not just survival, not just defiance, the first heartbeat of a future empire. For many years, the galaxy spoke of humans as ghosts. Alien traders whispered, "They were banished. They are gone." The Council believed humanity had perished in the dark, lost to hunger and despair. No records showed human fleets. No colonies sent signals. To the galaxy, the problem of mankind was finished. But deep inside the dead system, the truth was very different. Humanity had not died. Humanity had changed. Beneath the barren planets, vast underground cities spread like veins of light. Once small shelters had become glowing metropolises, powered by reactors built from salvaged alien technology. Factories roared in the tunnels, building machines stronger than anything humans had possessed before exile. Hydroponic farms filled massive caverns feeding millions. The dead system, once a grave, had become a hidden cradle of power. On the surface, silence ruled. Anyone passing through saw only broken rock, poisoned skies, and drifting debris. No signals escaped, no transmissions revealed their growth. Humans had learned from their mistakes. If the Council feared them, then humanity would hide until the time was right. In the 12th year of exile, the first true shipyards rose above the dying star. At first they were small, rings of metal slowly turning, welding new hulls together. But as the decades passed, the shipyards expanded until they became entire worlds of steel. Here humans forged their future. Faster engines, stronger armor, weapons designed for enemies who had banished them. Admiral Marcus Kane, now older, walked among the docks of the flagship Resolute. Around him workers hammered, sparks flew, engines roared. He smiled grimly. "They left us here to fade away," he said to his officers. "Instead, we are becoming something greater. We are no longer just survivors. We are builders of destiny." And he was right. The harsh system itself had shaped them. Radiation forced them to invent stronger shields. Scarcity taught them to recycle every fragment of material. The poisoned worlds trained them to adapt, to live where no others could. In struggle, they had become stronger than they ever were in peace. But whispers began spreading beyond the dead system. Alien ships traveling through the rim spoke of strange raids. Convoys vanished. Outposts were attacked by fast, silent fleets. Survivors told stories of ships that moved unpredictably, striking hard and vanishing like ghosts. "They are not pirates," one frightened captain said. "They fight with discipline, with purpose. They are human." At first, the Council dismissed these rumors. "Impossible," they declared. "Humans are gone. The exile killed them long ago." But more reports came. Trade routes collapsed. Colonies went silent. The whispers grew into fear. The truth was simple. Humanity was testing its strength. Small strike groups left the dead system in secret. They raided not to destroy but to learn. Every battle taught them more about their enemies' tactics, weapons, and weaknesses. Every captured ship was pulled apart, its technology absorbed, improved, and reborn in human factories. In the hidden cities, children who had grown up in exile were no longer weak refugees. They were strong, sharp-eyed, and disciplined. They had never known Earth, never seen the old colonies. To them, the Council was not authority, it was an enemy. Their education taught them survival, science, and war. They were raised not to remember loss, but to dream of return. One such child, now grown into a commander named Ilara, stood on the bridge of a new warship, the Iron Dawn. She gazed out at the stars, her eyes cold. "We were meant to die here," she said. "Instead, we forged steel from dust, fire from ash. One day the galaxy will see us again, and they will tremble." Her crew answered with a single word: Empire. Back in the council halls, the alien delegates began to argue once more. Some dismissed the rumors. Others warned, if even a fraction is true, then the humans are no longer a broken people. They are becoming something far worse. But by then it was already too late. The hidden empire was no longer small. Fleets were being built in silence. Soldiers were being trained. Science was being pushed beyond the limits of the Council's imagination. The galaxy had forgotten humanity. But humanity had not forgotten the galaxy. In the silence of exile, they had been preparing. And soon their silence would end. For decades, the galaxy believed humans were only a memory. Alien historians wrote of them as a warning: do not be like mankind. Do not burn too bright. The Council congratulated itself, saying the exile had solved the human problem forever. But the whispers of raids grew louder. Ships gone missing. Colonies suddenly silent. Convoys stripped of supplies. Still, most aliens did not believe. To them, humans were shadows, stories told by frightened captains. That changed in a single day. It began on a small mining colony on the edge of Council space. The colony was controlled by a powerful alien house that had ruled its people with cruelty. The workers were beaten, starved, and forced to mine rare metals until they collapsed. To them, the Council's protection was a lie. Then the sky burned. From the void came ships unlike any seen before. Sleek and dark, their hulls bristled with weapons. Their engines flared with strange light, moving faster and sharper than expected. They were not alien ships. They were not pirates. They were human, The first strike had begun. The defenders panicked. Alien warships rushed to intercept, but the humans fought like no one else. They did not line up in neat formations. They scattered, weaving through fire, striking at weak points, vanishing before enemy weapons could lock on. Within hours, the defenders were destroyed. On the ground, miners looked up as human soldiers descended. Clad in new armor, carrying weapons forged in exile, they moved with ruthless precision. But instead of enslaving the colony, they broke the chains. The prisoners were freed. Food was given to the starving. One miner, trembling, asked a human officer, "Who are you?" The officer smiled coldly. "We are the ones they banished. And now we return." The galaxy shook. News of the strike spread faster than fire. For the first time in a century, confirmed reports reached the council. Human fleets existed. Human soldiers fought. And worst of all, they were winning. The council chambers filled with fear. Delegates shouted at one another. Some demanded immediate retaliation. Others urged caution. If they survived exile, one elder said, then they are stronger than before. We must not underestimate them again. Meanwhile, in the hidden empire, celebrations echoed. The first strike had proven everything. Humanity was not a broken race. They were an empire now, disciplined, united, and unyielding. Admiral Marcus Kane, now old but still commanding, spoke to his people. His voice was broadcast across every underground city, every ship, every outpost. They thought we would die in silence, he said. But we endured. They thought we would vanish in the dark. But we grew, and today the galaxy remembers our name. Humanity has returned, not as exiles, not as slaves, but as conquerors of our destiny. The speech shook the people. For the first time in generations, hope burned as bright as fire. Children who had grown up in exile cheered the word that now guided them, empire. But the council was not silent. Within weeks, fleets were sent to crush the humans once more. Thousands of ships gathered, confident in their numbers. They believed this would be another quick victory. Instead, they met something they could not understand. The new human fleets struck like lightning. They used ambushes, traps, and unpredictable maneuvers. Council ships were destroyed in hours. What was supposed to be a punishment turned into a massacre. Entire squadrons burned in the void, their wreckage drifting through the stars. The survivors fled, carrying one message back to the council: the humans are stronger than ever. In the great chambers, silence followed. No one dared to say it, but every delegate knew the truth. Banishment had not destroyed humanity. It had created something worse, something powerful, something united. The first strike was over, but it was only the beginning. In the dead system, where the exile had once been a curse, the forges burned brighter. New fleets were being built, new weapons tested, and across the stars, oppressed species watched with hope. If the humans could rise from nothing, perhaps they could rise too. The galaxy had tried to erase mankind. Now mankind would write its name in fire. The first strike was only the beginning. When the human fleets returned to the hidden system, the galaxy was already in chaos. Rumors spread faster than light. The humans are back. The banished ones live. They are stronger than ever. The Galactic Council refused to believe at first. But when fleet after fleet returned broken, when colonies began falling to human hands, denial turned to fear. An emergency session was called. Delegates shouted, their voices filled with anger and panic. They were supposed to die, one alien leader cried. They are not ghosts, another hissed. They are an empire. Finally, the council agreed to one decision: war. A massive coalition was formed. Dozens of fleets gathered, carrying thousands of ships. Their goal was simple: destroy humanity once and for all. But the war did not go as planned. When the coalition fleets entered human space, they expected desperation. They expected chaos. Instead, they found discipline, strategy, and fire. The human empire did not fight like the old humans of legend. They fought smarter. Ambushes waited in asteroid belts. Mines hidden in dead systems destroyed entire squadrons. Human fleets struck from multiple directions, moving like hunters in the dark. Coalition admirals tried to predict them, but human tactics had no pattern. Every battle was different. Every strike was new. In one battle, a coalition fleet of 200 ships was drawn into a trap near a shattered moon. Human warships used the moon's fragments as cover, darting between rocks. striking from impossible angles. By the time the battle ended, only a handful of coalition ships escaped. The rest burned silently in the void. The galaxy trembled, but war was not only fought in space. On the ground, human soldiers became a legend. Trained in the harshness of exile, they fought with brutal endurance. On one liberated world, 1,000 human troops held off 10 times their number for weeks, refusing to surrender. Their motto spread across the stars: "Defiance is victory." Oppressed species watched closely. For centuries, the Council had ruled them with fear, but now they saw humanity rising from nothing, striking against the same powers that had crushed them. One by one, small groups began to join the humans: smugglers, rebels, and broken colonies. What started as whispers became alliances. On the human flagship Resolute, Admiral Marcus Kane addressed his officers. His voice was old but unshaken. "They banished us to the dark. Now we rise not only for ourselves, but for all who were silenced. This war is not just for humanity, it is for freedom." Beside him, Commander Ilara, younger and fierce, nodded. "And when we win," she said, "the galaxy will never forget that it was humans who lit the fire." The war spread like wildfire. Systems fell one after another. Human banners were raised on planets once ruled by the Council. Their empire expanded, not as slaves of exile, but as rulers of destiny. But the Council was not finished. They unleashed their most powerful fleets, entire armadas meant to crush the rebellion in one decisive blow. Across the galaxy, fear returned. Could even the humans stand against such power? The answer came at the Battle of Karos Prime. There, the largest coalition fleet in history gathered, over 1,000 warships, armed with the deadliest weapons. They expected a quick and final victory. Instead, they faced fury. Human fleets appeared from every angle, striking like storms. New weapons, built in exile, ripped through shields. Swarms of drones blinded enemy sensors. Entire Council battleships were torn apart by coordinated strikes. For every human ship destroyed, 2 more enemies fell. When the battle ended, Karos Prime was free, and the largest fleet the Council had ever built was nothing but wreckage. The War of Defiance had reached its turning point. Humanity had not only survived exile, they had shattered the Council's illusion of power. Across the stars, oppressed voices rose in unison. They no longer whispered in fear. They shouted with hope, "The humans fight for us. The humans fight for all." And in that moment, the galaxy understood a terrible truth. Banishment had not destroyed mankind. It had created an empire of defiance. The War of Defiance had burned across the stars for years. Systems rose in rebellion. Fleets clashed in endless battles, and the galaxy trembled as old powers began to fall. The Galactic Council, once proud and untouchable, was broken. Its fleets were scattered, its colonies lost, its people no longer afraid. And at the center of it all stood humanity, the race once banished, once condemned to die in silence. But silence had not been their fate. Exile had been their forge. The final blow came at the siege of Veyron, the Council's capital world. For centuries, the great city had stood as the heart of galactic power. Its towers pierced the sky, its fleets filled the orbit, and its leaders had ruled with arrogance. They believed no enemy could ever reach their gates. Then humanity arrived. The sky above Veyron burned with the fire of 100 battles. Human warships, sleek and black, pierced the defenses one by one. Swarms of drones and hidden strike craft filled the void. Coalition forces tried to resist, but their fleets collapsed under the relentless storm. Within days, the once mighty capital was surrounded. On the ground, human soldiers marched through the streets. People who had lived under Council rule for generations watched in silence as the banners of the old order were torn down. For the first time, they saw the flag of humanity, simple, strong, unbroken. Inside the great council chambers, the last alien leaders gathered. Their voices were filled with anger, fear, and desperation. "You cannot rule the galaxy," one spat. "You were exiles. You were nothing." Admiral Marcus Kane, now scarred by war but still unshaken, stood before them. His voice carried across the vast chamber, steady and unyielding. "Yes," he said. "We were exiles. We were nothing. And in nothing, we found strength. You thought you had destroyed us, but you only made us stronger. You thought you silenced us, but you gave us a reason to rise." The chamber fell silent. Every delegate felt the weight of those words. Commander Ilara stepped forward beside him. Her eyes burned with fire. "The age of the council is over. From this day forward, there will be no banishment, no silence, no chains. From this day, the galaxy belongs to those who dare to fight for it." And then, before the broken council, before the galaxy that watched from every corner of the stars, humanity declared its new destiny. The Empire of Humanity was born. News spread like lightning. Across the galaxy, oppressed worlds cheered. Colonies that had been enslaved raised the human banner. Species long forgotten by the Council pledged loyalty to the new empire. Humanity was not alone anymore. They were the leaders of a coalition of the free. The Council's last fleets surrendered. Its leaders were forced to kneel before those they had once cast into the void. History itself was rewritten, but the empire was not built on vengeance alone. Humanity did not destroy the defeated worlds. Instead, they rebuilt them. They shared food, technology, and freedom. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy knew not fear but hope. On the hidden world where exile had once begun, a great monument was built. It was not of victory but of defiance. At its base were carved words that every child of the new empire would learn. They banished us to die. We chose to live. They cast us into silence. We chose to roar. We are humanity. We will never kneel again. And so the story of exile ended, not with death but with an empire. The stars that had once been prisons were now bridges. The void that had once been their tomb was now their throne. Humanity, the race no one trusted, the race the galaxy had tried to erase, had risen higher than anyone ever dreamed. And though peace spread across the stars, one truth remained. The galaxy would never forget the lesson of the banishment. Never underestimate humanity. Never cast them aside, for from ashes they build empires. From exile they forge destiny.